What you're watching is a completely new type of television. As you view, you can decide what interests you about the arts in Elizabeth's England, and what doesn't. Your choices will make each showing of a golden age different, and different just for you. As you watch, keywords will appear on the screen, words like drama or queen. If you want your viewing of a golden age to explore a topic more fully, then while the keyword and a countdown are there, press OK on your remote. And if you're really interested, press twice or even 3 times. But if you'd rather know more about another topic, wait for the word to fade and new ones will follow. Unlike the internet, the programme will not jump immediately to your choice, but as you keep watching and choosing, a golden age will show you a version of itself shaped by your interests. At the end of the 16th century, the plays of Shakespeare and Marlowe were first seen on the London stage. Nobles were building some of England's greatest country houses. And the court of Elizabeth I read the poems of Sidney and Spenser, and heard the music of Byrd and Tallis. The 1580s and 1590s were a great moment for the arts in England. A time that ever since has been called a golden age.
The idea of the Elizabethan period being a golden age is very interesting. It is certainly the golden age of English literature. There can be no question about that. I think as far as the architecture goes, again, it's a matter of taste. Personally, I think it was a golden age. I think the builders had great individuality. They did what they wanted to do. They were experimenting with new styles and combining them with old styles. Certainly as far as gardens go, the gardens became much more expansive, much more magnificent. If you like terms like golden age, I certainly think that you could consider this period a golden age. There was a sense of an English style. I think that you, as I say, you would, if you look at these buildings and you look at a series of illustrations, or you go to visit various of these buildings, you see certain characteristics that link them together. The love of height, the love of large windows, a certain interest in the roofline, for example, that then will change in the 17th century. And just a great individuality. Very few of them look alike, unlike Georgian houses, where they're almost like a cookie cutter, where you can see one after another, and they look so much alike based on the work of Palladio. I think here you can see that there are great similarities in the buildings, but each one is quite unique. These houses were not just built for the men and women who built them, but they were also built with the hopes that Elizabeth would come to visit. So images of her, either in mottos or heraldry, or sometimes far more subtle images, were frequently found. Hardwicke Hall is a great example. When you enter into Hardwicke, the hall itself that you enter into has Bess of Hardwicke's coat of arms. But as you rise through the house and come to the most important rooms, then you find the imagery, the heraldry of the Queen, and you have a whole plaster frieze dedicated to Elizabeth I. And this was typical. Their main goal was to get Elizabeth either to come visit them or to have everyone know how loyal they were. She was the source of power, and they paid tribute to her that way.
One of the things that happens in the Elizabethan period is that we get the invention of theatre as a noun. So theatre becomes about buildings and places and purpose-built places where you can show and perform plays. So before that, plays are essentially peripatetic. They may go to large houses, to kind of noblemen's houses. They may be played in a big kind of banqueting hall that we're probably all quite familiar with, seeing kind of Elizabethan hall, sometimes with a minstrel's gallery, that kind of a structure. They may be played in pub yards or in yards, and sometimes they have a sort of balcony or upper tier gallery kind of structure, and the plays would perform down in the yard. Or they might be performed in places like the Inns of Court, which are pretty much on the sort of stately home kind of model. What we get from 1570 onwards is the development of purpose-built theatres on an amphitheatre model, usually. There are very few direct references to Elizabeth. I think that's dangerous in certain ways. There's the imperial votaress who comes up in Midsummer Night's Dream, many people think is a reference to Elizabeth, but mostly they're more coded. Some of the plays that are performed for court have some kind of prologue or something which is directly addressed to Elizabeth. Decker's play Old Fortunatus is one that comes to mind for that. But certainly scholars have been very interested in the way in which dominant female figures in the plays may be either consciously or subconsciously projections of or versions of Elizabeth.